Hello, I'm Russ Wigginton, president of the National Civil Rights Museum, and today I'm honored to be in conversation with the one and only Cheryl Miller.
Russ, you are absolutely too kind to me. How are you doing, young man?
I am great. It is an honor to be with you today, and I want to talk about your greatness. And I want to talk about your greatness as a person and your greatness as a civically engaged person with a twist of basketball, perhaps. So let's dive right in.
A little sprinkling of basketball.
Just a little sprinkle of the basketball. How have you connected those two, actually? How have you capitalized on your basketball prowess to be such a force and such a positive influence in our society, a positive influence for good?
You know, that's a tough question to really answer. To sum it all up, and what makes it easy for me, I have to give all the credit to my mom and dad. And that's just how we were raised as young kids, is to be respectful, and basically, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it's about generosity, about giving, about walking in humility and grace, and looking beyond the physical appearances of someone, but getting to know them and judge them from the content of their heart.
I love that response, and it's so aligned, frankly, with the work of Dr. King, which we try to lift up at the National Civil Rights Museum every day. And that spirit, I think, can carry you a long way, and certainly has for you. When you've been when that has been challenged for you, because not everyone hears or responds to what you just said and how you act. What are some strategies that you have used in your lifetime to not be swayed, if you will, when people don't necessarily receive that grace and humility that you just talked about?
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, Russ. And that's a spot on follow-up question, because what I stated a few minutes ago is not the finished product. I'm not a finished product. I will never be a finished product. So I've missed the mark several times throughout my life. But what keeps me moving forward, and I think that's the key, is to not only just give myself grace and give others grace, but I have to understand that I'm a human. And again, I like to say that more times than not, I get it right. But when I don't, I do fall back on the fact that it's not so much what you say to a person, more so than how you make them feel. And that's been the guide for me. People may not remember everything or a conversation I had with them at the moment, but they will walk away with how I made them feel. So that is my biggest template of trying to live a life that is reflective on being kind and being honest and being thoughtful, and thoughtful in the sense that I really am, in this stage of my life, trying to think and be careful with the words I speak, and make sure that whatever comes out of my mouth is edifying, uplifting, and provocative in the sense that it can be a healing word.
Absolutely. And sometimes that takes courage.
It
Sometimes
takes
that
it takes
conviction.
courage. It takes conviction, courage, honesty with yourself. Because if I expect someone to treat me a certain way, then I have to treat them. And it's not because I know this person, or I like this person, or I have a great relationship. It's being loving and giving to sometimes the not so lovely. It's being loving and giving when the person really doesn't care about you. The person doesn't have your best interests at heart. The person really doesn't care about you at all. And still finding a way to connect with that person and work with them on their terms sometimes.
That is, those are profound words. Dr. King talked about unconditional love and so much of what
I'm
he
not there yet,
did.
Russ. I'm not quite there yet. I'm not
Yeah,
quite there yet. And but that's what the journey is about. And look, more times than not, yeah, sometimes I've come home with my tail between my legs, and there are times where I've shed many tears. Um, but there have been so many more joyous moments where I've walked away saying, I think there was a connection there. Like I can see where they're coming from. You know what? It really isn't ABC. There's a lot of DEF in this, and okay, all right, I can work with this. And I think that there's a lot of unfortunate situations in our lifetime that have happened, and especially over the last 5 to 10 years, that humanity in a sense has taken a step backwards. Now, with that being said, I think this is a prime opportunity for us to reconnect with one another, and we have to.
absolutely. And uh, as you were talking, just both the words and the passion in which you articulate them, I'm actually going to connect that to you on the basketball court. I mean, you played with such passion, selflessness, and determination. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking how she played is how she is. That's a goal for how she lives her life. Is that a true statement?
That's an accurate statement. That truly is. I sometimes stammer to find the right words, but when God blesses you with something that gives you great joy, as basketball did, I couldn't step on that floor without having a big grin on my face. I couldn't step on the floor. Every pass to a teammate, just looking back, felt like it was a pass of love. It was a pass of hope. It was a pass of making someone better. And that was the blessing in my life. It's the same way when I was coaching. It was the same way with broadcasting, interviewing athletes, interviewing coaches, interviewing politicians, dignitaries. It was always a way for me to connect, and it's a joy. Life is about finding those little hidden joys and being a participant in it with someone else. And the older I get and the more wisdom that I am blessed with, the more I realize that as dark as times may get, there's still so much light, and there's so much love, and there's so much worth fighting for, rolling up our sleeves and compromising.
Absolutely, and that uh, comes through in how you show up all the time in all those spaces that you just mentioned. I'd like to get your perspective on thinking about today and so how athletes and I'll focus really on women in particular. I mean, I think the progress and the opportunity that are still out there for women in basketball, if we focus there, are still numerous. How would you describe the distinctions that were in your in the pinnacle or the key points of your career? How different is it now for women as players, as owners, as C-suite leaders in sports? How different is it now compared to what it was when you were on the hardwood?
Russ, you know this better than I do. The game changer for everyone, especially women, social media. We have found our platform. And these young ladies in sports across the board are using their platform for the advancement of their sport, the advancement for society, their culture, their environment, their loved ones, who they love, for the enrichment and betterment of the young ladies there who are coming up, who are looking for them for their leadership and their voices. And they're challenging the systems. They're asking the questions, well, why not? Well, how do you figure? So you're going to tell me, and they're pushing the envelope. And I think we collectively understand now, more than ever, in this day and age, we cannot afford as women, and I'll just stick to sports, we cannot afford as women in sports to take any more steps backwards, especially with the steps and leaps and bounds and where we're at. And now we're being invited to the table. But if I'm invited to the table, I've got to hold out both my arms and bring two people and tell them to do that. So that it now becomes this big, entire collective effort to bring as many people who want to be a part of this and make a difference. And we need all these collective and various voices so we can get it right. And we can prepare a future for the younger generation so they can pass on and be the baton bearers moving forward.
As you describe that, Cheryl, it makes me think that you, maybe publicly, but maybe more, even more privately, you're serving as a mentor, certainly an ambassador, and an advocate in so many ways for progress for women in sports, progress for people in some other ways perhaps as well. Could you speak to those spaces? I mean, I know you are humble to, not to a fault, but humble and fundamentally. But I'd love for our listeners, our viewers to hear the people and how you are intentional about using your gifts to so many and for so many.
I would love to be able to say something that is so, thought provoking, but I just keep it simple, Russ. I speak when I'm spoken to. I try to be very judicial with my words. I do my homework. I do my homework. And I try not to be responsive quickly. I try to, take in whatever information. Why am I feeling like this before I react, before I respond? And I'd like to see and test the waters and more importantly, get both sides of the coin before I offer any type of opinions or, uh, you know, how I feel, my thought process about this issue. Um, but I'm very, very quick to listen. I'm becoming a very good listener. And I try to be very slow to speak and even slower to get angry anymore because anger is valid at times and it can be positive at times if I understand where to direct the proper response and to anger.
Yeah, yes, that's so well said, and it's exhausting to be angry.
It is. It is, Russ. And the only person it truly hurts at the end of the day is you and I. Is you and I. They're not, they're not having a sleepless night. I am. And at the and Russ, you know this as well as I do. At the end of the day, only God can change a person's mind or heart. I just have to do my job. I have to do my part. That's all I'm responsible for.
If you could I'm going to ask you an unfair question, so that's your heads up.
Please, please, please.
If there's one aspect about our current society, I mean, you've noted there's been tremendous progress in so many spaces, and granted, we've had some steps back in some areas as well. I mean, it's a ongoing journey. If there's a dimension of our culture, our current culture, that could shift or be changed, that stands out to you, that you feel like is for the goodness of our society, where would you focus that? What would that be for Cheryl Miller?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I can't quite put my finger on when it happened, but we've, as a society, have lost the ability to empathize. We are too quick to judge. We are too quick to state an opinion without all the facts. And we don't take the time to just listen to the other side and then process it and see if there might be a grain, a kernel of truth, and be judicious enough to say, I hear you and I'm listening. I disagree, but I'm not going to fault you for your opinion, for why you feel the way you do, because I don't know where you came from. I don't know your beginning. I don't even know your middle of the road. I know where you're at right now because we're having this dialogue. But we have to start listening to one another. We may not get to the same plane, but if I can at least listen to you and empathize and have some sympathy and then walk away with just saying, gosh, I see where she's coming from. May not agree with it, but I understand how she feels that way and why she came to this conclusion, and hope that somehow by the way I treat her or him moving forward, that it may have a positive effect on their life and their attitude and the way they may have thought in the past.
Cheryl, I appreciate that endorsement for the National Civil Rights Museum, because that's what we try to do every day. No, I'm kidding a little bit about that, but from the standpoint of what you just described, it was powerful, because understanding and recognizing where people come from, that's a dimension of really seeing them and validating their humanity. And when that happens, I do think that sets us up for a whole different potential outcome. And what we know about you is that you have led with grace, you've led with dignity, and you have been an inspiration for so many throughout your career. We're honored to get this time with you today, and would like to leave you with any parting word for our listeners and viewers. Thank you so much, Cheryl Miller, for all that you've done and will continue to do in this beautiful society that we live in.
Thank you, Russ. I love you much, my man.